Good evening. Welcome to Friendship Radio and to the grand march through life. It sure is good having you join me here on KGBC 1540 AM radio here in Galveston. My name is James Hughey, facilitator of the Friendship Personal Retreat Program here in Galveston and on ships cruising seas throughout the world. Offering the gift of listening hospitality, I invite you to join me here on KGBC Friendship Radio for Southeast Texas as we explore topics to enrich the quality of your life. Power for positive living and friendship. Tonight we're going to talk about some myths of mental health. Now, one of the most fascinating things as a counseling psychologist, I imagine, is the unique misperceptions that people have about what in the world is mental health. Most of the time we talk about it as though we're mental illness, and we focus on mental illness, and we focus on how to bring out the traits that people are deficient or defective in. Well, here on Friendship Radio, we're interested in trying to build up positive mental health, being able to take those characteristics that make you unique and special and enrich them. And as I interact with people and they inquire about my background in counseling psychology, I am constantly amazed at how many myths people have about what is mental health. Friendship Radio is oriented toward wellness psychology. We focus on listening hospitality. Friendship House was opened in August here in Galveston with the objective of providing an atmosphere of listening hospitality, a place where one could dare to be themselves and verbally interact with another human being. Its focus was not on treatment, but oriented toward helping healthy people become healthier. The realization that healthy people have needs. The ministry that came with Friendship House, this ministry meaning service to other people, is focused on the awareness and belief that you and I are curious. We are curious about who we are and how can we learn more about ourselves. As we have commented before, this is one of the last things that we ever really get around to studying in schools. We study what other people say and what other people believe, but we very seldom ever get around to studying ourselves and listening to ourselves. If we're going to talk about mental health, and as I say, Friendship House and the Friendship Service, whether it's here on land or doing outreach, educational, enrichment programs on cruise ships cruising throughout the world, the definition of mental health pretty much stays the same, and it is a focus on wellness. There are many definitions that one can use for mental health, but the one that I like and one that I use as kind of an operational definition is the following. Mental health to me is a positive interaction with life to the benefit of self and others. It's a balanced approach to life. Being able to positively interact with yourself, being able to positively interact with your environment. Now, we say positive interaction because, once again, we are all unique. The background of your life novel is special. There's no one else who has one like you. The mental health, hopefully, is the same for both of us. If I can interact with myself and I can positively interact with other people, and I can do this in a healthy balance, something that is appropriate for today, something that is appropriate for tomorrow. That, to me, is what mental health is about. I say that because one of the myths of mental health is that there is a rigid form of behavior that is appropriate for everyone. If I am mentally healthy and you are mentally healthy, then somehow you and I are supposed to be behaving the very same. And that's not true, I don't believe. I know, for example, that 1 in 4 adults will need some type of psychological assistance in their lifetime. Now, that to me makes it say that, mental health is a very important part of our life. Myth number 1 that we have is that if I am mentally healthy and you are mentally healthy, then somehow we are doing the very same thing. In working with mental health, and as I mentioned earlier, the counseling psychology background that I have does lead me to have some experience with this is the realization that mental health workers are there to assist people. They cannot be responsible for achieving mental health. One of the key characteristics is that I am responsible for my health and you are responsible for yours. Hopefully, as we interact with others and receive assistance, that is exactly what we can see it as. Assistance. I need people. I assume that most of you need people. But so often, if we're not careful, we can make other people responsible for our own mental health. I see mental health workers as people who are capable and who are willing to help. Now, for example, you and I both have friends who are willing, but sometimes they may not be capable. And then there are people who are capable, but they may not be willing. So a mental health worker is one who is capable and who is willing. And I guess a third characteristic that I would share, as we have done a number of series on how to select appropriate mental health professionals, is really realizing that therapy takes place within the person. No matter what the behavior model, whether it's behavior therapy, cognitive therapy, intrapersonal therapy, listening hospitality, or anything else, it is basically saying that whatever changes take place within you have to be made based on a decision within you. There is no magical dust out there, folks. No magical wand that's going to wave over you and make you feel great. We look at a myth of mental health, and that leads me to the second myth that I want to share with you this evening, is that somehow someone else can be responsible for your mental health. You are responsible. All kinds of assistance happens within you. A third myth that I'd like to share with you is what we call the tendency to be average, the pressure to conform. There is a myth that somehow there is an average, and the average is good. Then there's the myth of the good norm, which is a very close analogy. The myth of the good norm says that what is good for me is good for other people. Now, if I'm doing it, then this should be good for you. And that itself can lead to a great deal of difficulty because we have a hard time with individual differences. Intellectually, we accept it. But personally, we have a hard time with individual differences. So we have the myth of the good norm. We also have a tendency in our society to encourage individualism. We value it and we kind of put it up on a pedestal. And yet at the very same time, we have a tendency to not allow deviations from a norm. We want people to be individualistic as long as they're normal, which in itself is a very fascinating paradox and puts a great deal of stress on some people. So we're focusing on an awareness of individualism versus being able to allow you to deviate from a norm. We, as individuals, tend to seek like behavior. We tend to like people who are very, very similar to us. Differences make us uncomfortable. We tend to want people to behave like us, and yet we oftentimes will say opposites attract. Well, we like people and we can be interested in them, but that doesn't mean we're comfortable with them. Most of the difficulties, whether they're frustrations or prejudices or biases or whatever, tend to be oriented around this internal discomfort. We have a myth that goodness is being and interacting with like behavior. As we review some of the norms, I encourage you to be aware because your life novel will be a compilation of your attitudes, your beliefs, your opinions, and your values. As we talk about what is a positive interaction of life to the benefit of you and other people in your life, developing this balance, those are some myths that possibly you can use to explore. Well, folks, I want to thank you for joining me this evening here on KGBC AM 1540 Friendship Radio for Galveston County. I do hope that this program has provided a valuable resource as you write your life novel. And I hope you will join me again here on Friendship Radio for Southeast Texas on AM 1540 as we continue to explore topics each Thursday night to enrich the quality of your life. Power for positive living and friendship. This is your friend and host, James Hughey. Good night.